Okay, next up, I'm going to teach you guys how to understand and play eighth note triplets. So far, we've looked at quarter notes, we've looked at eighth notes, and we've looked at 16th notes. So in other words, we looked at ones, twos, and fours. Well, what's missing are triplets, which are the threes. Let's see if I can explain that for you. This is a pulse. That's quarter notes, so it's going da, 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 da. Long notes fill the whole of that gap. If I divide it in half, I get eighth notes. Da, 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 da. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and as you know by now, the next one up is 16th notes with da 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 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Well, what we're going to talk about then is putting threes in there. Now, the way to count threes, there's lots of ways. You could just count to 3. So I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I say 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4, or 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. When we start to play these over on the drum kit in a moment, sometimes I'm going to use phonetics and I'm going to use hickory dickory. So if you think of the nursery rhyme, hickory dickory, hickory dickory. It's a nice way of really feeling those threes pulse. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get a metronome, stand by a clock and hear the seconds tick in, and just try and see if you can keep in time with the pulse, but playing those threes. So with this, I'll clap it so you can hear. So we're going to get 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So they're called eighth note triplets, right? If I could go back in time, I would change all this, right? I would change them just to be called 12th notes, right? Everything else seems to be named the amount of divisions, but for some reason this one was different. Now, when we see the notation, what you'll see is eighth notes have got one beam across the top. And what happened originally was people decided, right, well, I want to squash 3 notes into the space where those 2 notes can fit. So above the note, they wrote 3, 2 dots, 2. In other words, squash in 3 notes where 2 can normally fit. And over the years, the 2 got rid of, and eventually it's just a 3 above the note. So when you see an eighth note with a 3 above the top, sometimes it'll have a little umbrella pointing at the 3 notes so you can see them easily. You know that what that's saying is squash those 3 notes where 2 would normally fit, or in this case, play 3 12th notes. Let's get over on the drums and I'll teach you a couple of grooves. So most of you will find that you can just play an eighth note triplet groove parrot fashion, which basically means I play it, you copy what it sounds like, and it would sound like this. So all you've got to learn really is how to count that. Now, as I mentioned, I would probably count 1 and a, 2 and a, 1 and a, 2 and a, or maybe I would count 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And you notice the first time then I only counted to 2, and the second time I counted to 4. Well, it's going to be the same part number what we do. Now, we often use bars of 4, sometimes 2s, right? But if we count to 4, we're just going to do the same thing. 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a, same beat. Now, as with our other grooves, we can take our right hand, move it to the right cymbal, and suddenly we've got another rhythm. This is a groove that you're sometimes going to hear Tom being used. But essentially I'm playing exactly the same pattern, just moving my right hand to these different surfaces. So those would be eighth note grooves. What about fills? Well, it doesn't sound very comfortable or good when we suddenly go into a 16th note or 8th note fill from a triplet based ones. So in other words, 3s work well with 3s, or maybe 6s, but they're not going to work so well with 4s or 2s. So what fills will we do? Well, one of the things that we're going to learn to do now is something called unisons. A unison just means you're going to hit both sticks and you try and hit them at exactly the same time. So this would be what we call a flam. In this case, we don't want that. We're going to hit exactly together. But what we're going to do is there's no point playing it on one drum really, because it's going to sound the same. We're going to hit it across two drums. So I'm going to put my right hand on the tom here, my left on the snare here, like this. Now those 12 notes, those 4 lots of triplets, I'm going to play here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's what I'm going to use as my fill after playing 1 bar of groove, like this. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to the start again, like this. How can you make that a little bit more interesting? Well, you could move it around, maybe do 6 here and 6 here. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and start to speed up maybe a little. Maybe I put dynamics in, which are just where we go loud and quiet. So I'm going to go from really quiet to loud. So I'll do a crescendo. Or finally, maybe I'll start to put a crash cymbal in. Now, like all the other beats, we're not having an additional crash, it's instead of the first beat. So instead of 1 and 2 and we're going to get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So every time I say 1, I'm hitting that crash. So this kind of feel is going to be a lot of blues music. It may be in certain types of jazz music, but it's also going to be you kind of get your lighter out or your mobile phone out, stick the light on in slow ballads, rock ballads, that kind of thing. You are going to hear it fast. Without dropping your stick though. But often, as we get faster, we're going to go hand to hand, which we'll look at in a couple of moments. So to recap, we've got 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we've got 8th note triplets, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and